Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. I'm here with my friend Camille Thomas, and today we're going to continue our study of Think and Grow Rich. Today is one of the most powerful chapters that you are going to learn about. Actually, I guess I keep saying that about all of them, but I'm telling you, this is the one that is the most undervalued in American society because we're talking about the imagination. Camille, welcome to the class tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this collaboration project. It's been such a blessing.
It really has. It's been very, very good. The study, the feedback. Thank you all who are tuning in and watching this, and giving us likes and hearts and thumbs up and some words of encouragement and in the background. So it has been. It's been wonderful. Really enjoyed it.
Yes, yes. And I got to tell you, we normally do this at the end, but I want to bring this up right now just because I don't want anybody under the sound of my voice to miss out. We have some juicy, juicy lessons that have been dropped into the portal for those who are fully enrolled in the class. And I'm not going to, beat around the bush. I'm not going to try and grab your emotions. You know, if your life hasn't been what you want it to be, and you know, if your results in 2021 haven't been where they should be, you know, if you made all those New Year's resolutions in January and you did like me and broke them all in the first week, and then you realized I need to throw them resolutions out the window, you know, whether or not we are about to head into fourth quarter. It is do or die time. And if you haven't seen those results yet, then it's time for you to enroll in this class. The link is right down there at the bottom of the screen. It's jjclink.com/TAGR for Think and Grow Rich. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be that person that tells you right now, I want you to buy this class because every profit from it goes to Camille. I had set out one of my goals in 2021 was to empower people to take their gift and make money. And this lady who's on the screen with me right here, I'm telling you, one day I'm going to be working for her and I'm going to be happy about it because she has got the biggest heart. She has got such a bright spirit. She loves the Lord. She loves her family. She loves all the things I love. And she is just amazing. And so I want you to support her while you support you. But in reality today, we have too many of us. We hit the wave tops of life. We skim the surface. We read the book. We have this class. You know I'm talking to you because you got this class playing in the background. Now, if that's all you can do, I ain't mad at you because there are so many times I got these classes playing while I'm washing dishes or I'm folding laundry. It's whenever I can squeeze it on in, right? But some of you today, you know you need to do more, have more, and be more. And in order to do that, you need to take the next step. You need to invest in you at a level at which you expect results. And if I'm talking to you today, I don't want you to delay. Don't you wait until the end. Go right now and log into this class and buy into this class before we finish the class and the price goes up $300 more. Okay. So have I made everybody uncomfortable yet? Or do you know I'm right today?
It's so awesome. Thank you guys, like I said, for the support. And this investment is just not a monetary investment, it's an investment to you to change your life, change your thinking, change your circumstance, change, those things or bring them to fruition, those things that you've wished and desired for so long. So, the biggest benefit is the benefit that you get out of the class. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that it is, when applied, man, I tell you what, it has really changed a lot of things in my life. So, want to give you that same opportunity. Come on. So,
That's right. Come on, because here's the thing. It's a they call payment consideration. I don't know if y'all know that today. They call payment consideration. And I promise I'm gonna move on. We're gonna get into the juiciness, but somebody needs to hear this today. The reason the needle hasn't been moving forward in your life is you haven't been given any consideration to the things that will lift you up and the things that will actually build you up. And even this is why a tip is so powerful. Even if you're just leaving $1, $2, $5 for the maid or the steward or whoever it is that's serving you, you are giving something of value in return for receiving something of value. And when you honor whoever is giving you something of value, now the forces that God has set in motion in the universe says this person gives honor to whom honor is due. And this person is willing to take a step forward, a concrete step forward. And if you have been like me today and you have spent your life getting free thing after free thing after free thing, I want you to try me and see if things won't change. The minute you start to buy, I have had ideas come to me simply because I bought into this or that program. And the Spirit spoke to me and said, because you moved out on faith, I have honored you with this idea, this idea, this idea that has made you back tens and 50s and 100 times your investment. All right, you can tell I feel very passionate about that. This chapter is so phenomenal because this chapter is what helped me imagine a future where I could do what I'm doing with you today. And so I'm going to go check the comments real quick, but I'm going to let Camille give her intro because I feel like I just kind of dove on in there, and we want people to be encouraged today, don't we?
Absolutely. Yes, and this is a place where we want to encourage people and want to reignite that fire of imagination in you. I know that a lot of people have lost that imagination. One thing I said on my post was like, were you one of those kids that kind of daydreamed all the time? Somebody said, "Oh, your imagination just run wild." Sit down. Why are you always doing this? Why do you have these? And we lose a lot of that growing up, and then we go, what happened? Well, a lot of things happened, but the good thing is that fire, that spirit, that everything can be reignited in you and help you to imagine a life that you create for yourself, the life that you want to live for yourself. And so we're going to talk about some of that today, really how the mind works and how to get those creative and imaginative faculties to work in your favor once again. So yes, don't want to lose sight of that just because it was gone for a while or you hadn't used it to its fullest extent doesn't mean that you can't do that again. So
That's right. That's right. And I know in my life, I had built a career on logic and science. And also, I'm a high D personality, and one of the high D personality's biggest fears is being taken advantage of. And in conjunction with being a high D personality, all my life I was told how slow I was and how they didn't give me an opposite of street smarts. It's like, your sister's so street smart and you're so useless. You're so book smart, you're practically useless. Like, right, that's what I used to hear growing up. And so all of that combined in me to be the kind of person that didn't want to be creative, didn't want to use my imagination. All of those artworks that I did as a kid, the artwork that was in galleries when I was in college, all of that got beat out of me by life because my imagination and my big heart full of love for God's people and for all people really got me in trouble time and time again. So I shut that imagination down. But one of the things that I had to learn when it came to this chapter is that if God did not want me to use my imagination, he wouldn't have equipped me with one. And so I want to leave that with you today. If you take away nothing else from you, this imagination is how you take these desires and you begin to walk in the energy of them. When the energy of everything around you is, my life stinks, I'm broke, I don't have this, my kids don't act right, my husband doesn't this, my wife doesn't that. Your imagination is how you transcend above that. Can you tell I love this? Oh my goodness. So Camille, when we dig into this chapter, what stood out to you when you first approached this chapter?
man, it says the very first. I love these first sentences. I don't know. I don't know if you can tell, but every time I'm like the very first sentence, the very first paragraph. But it says the imagination is literally the workshop wherein are fashioned all plans created by men. And like you said, if God didn't want you to use your imagination, He would not have equipped you with it. This is the area that we overlook so much. We think that people are just wasting
Mhm,
time or that our kids are not being productive. But it's in the faculty of imagination
right.
that things are created, that inventions come on, that, we have these artists that are out there, that
Mhm,
we are able to enjoy the luxuries that we have in our life today. If
mhm,
someone didn't imagine a life, and I think back to all of those cartoons, um, that like not the Flintstones, but the Jetsons. Somebody imagined that we would be having cars that can fly, or imagine that we would have these AI robots that can clean our house, or imagine that we can FaceTime or do things like this. And it's so
Mhm.
funny,
Mhm.
Hanna-Barbera, that was back in 1962, I believe it was. And here we are these years later, and we're enjoying the fruits of someone's imagination.
Mhm.
So that is a place wherein all things, all plans are created. And so I think that this faculty should be given a lot more attention than it is. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So how about you, Jay?
Well, for me, it's just the realization that I can use this imagination. Because, like I said, all those early years of my early adulthood of being taken advantage of and being traumatized and all these things because of my heart and my imagination and all of that combined to make someone who is really quite fearful. And you wouldn't have known it to look at me, especially in the job. And it's funny because now that I've had this experience, I can see it a mile off where you have this big highfalutin job and you're the stuff at work, but at home, deep down inside, you feel so worthless and you feel like you are just not good enough and you don't deserve love and you don't deserve wealth and you don't, and honestly, one of the biggest fights in my bodily health was the anger that I was taking out on my body by feeding it things it didn't need or refusing to give it the rest it needed was really at the root cause because of all the anger I was feeling about everything else that I was either putting myself in a position or I let this happen to me or I couldn't do anything about it. And instead of taking that anger and doing with it what needed to be done, instead, I was harming myself without even realizing it. And the imagination is what allows me to walk in the energy of the world that I want to create. And so for me, it's really like, hey, you can do this. And here's the thing, what I described in the health, it was using my imagination in a bad way. It was using my imagination as an automatic failure mechanism instead of an automatic success mechanism that it was designed for. So, this beautiful thing that we were created with has become corrupted by our society, by our world structure, by life. And let me tell you something. I just came from a Bible study where folks were like, "Well, do you really think that there's an enemy out there who's prowling around to get you?" I'm like, "I do," and everybody's looking at me like, "Well," and I was like, "Oops." I was like, well, yes, I do. I absolutely do. Because you know what? I'm fighting him all the time. But he had somehow, we think that we can't use our imagination. But boy, we imagine, don't we, when we think of all the things that could go wrong, all the different ways people going to laugh at us, all the different ways we're going to get rejected, all the different reasons why we can't move out on our business or in that relationship or just even speak our minds. Oh, our imagination is absolutely active. So why not use it for a change to do something good for yourself, to do something that will move you further towards your dreams?
That's so funny you say that. Well, not funny you say that, because I understand that we're, on the same vibration when it comes to this kind of stuff. But on the just the other day, I was having a conversation with a couple of people, and we're, like you said, we're programmed almost to go back to that negative imagination, imagining all the things that can go wrong and the what ifs. And I said, well, what if things go right? Well, what if it works out? What if you actually succeed? What if
Yes.
everything aligns in your favor because you're carrying out the thing that is your deepest desire? What if all of these things just come together for you? Then what? And I was like, and I said, we always think about all the what ifs that can go wrong. But imagine yourself, how would that feel
How would it
if you
feel?
were actually doing the thing that you so desired to do? And that you flip that. I'm imagining all these negative things, which we do constantly. It's always about oh man, I got to watch out for this. I don't know about this. Am I going to have this? And another lady was saying that it was a monetary thing, a monetary investment. And I'm like, the reason why, yes, well, I don't have it because I don't have this, which is goes back to that poverty mindset. um, imagining, you only imagine so much because of what you know or what you're exposed to, aware of. But I was like, I'm doing it. It's almost like a tithe. I don't tithe to get something back. Maybe that wasn't
Right,
a good
right, right, right.
analogy, but anyway, I was like, it's an investment. because I know that if I do the work, there's a return on that investment. And I hope that that investment, and I have faith, is what I actually write, that that investment is going to be far greater than the return on the investment is going to be far greater than the investment that I actually had to make. Which is why you have to put yourself out there. Sometimes it's a sacrifice. You know, the thing that I want, I have to give up something. I like when John Maxwell says, what are you willing to give up to go up? You sometimes have to give up something all the time. You have to give up something in order to go where you want to go. But just imagining what that looks like instead of all the things, and I've kept myself back so long because of that. All of the things that could go wrong. Well, what if I lose all my money? Well, every single day in my life I've been provided for. There's some days I've been hungry. There's some days I didn't have a lot of wants, but I'm still here. And it's like tomorrow or today will be no different. What am I afraid of? And why, is it so hard for me
Why?
to imagine, yes, the good stuff that I could be doing, all the things that I was gifted in before. It's so easy to think about all the things that can go wrong. And I'm like, are those things even really true?
Now think about that for a second. Are these things even really true? And somebody said, well, it's not a good use of my time to imagine something that hasn't happened yet. But is imagining something that we want for our future any less a waste of time than imagining all the bad stuff that can happen? I mean, let me tell you, my son is into this show called The Flash, and I'm sure I'm the last person on planet Earth to actually start watching the show. And so I've been watching it to kind of catch up so that when it starts again, I can watch it with him. And I'm telling you, there are so many depressing themes, but it is so easy. I shouldn't have named the show. Oh, I'm so sorry. Please don't sue me, anybody who's connected with that show. But just take any show, take any sci-fi show out there. There are so many themes in that show that would, on the surface, would push you towards thinking of all these amazing things, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to despair and suffering. And it's like I could jump on that one. Like I could get with that. I can imagine that. Boy, when I close my eyes at night, I can see all the fume and all the lightning bolts and all the every. Why can I imagine those things? But I can't even imagine what it would be like to have achieved my goals. And I've been teaching this stuff. This is what the fourth time we've gone through Think and Grow Rich, right? And every year it's a new focus and a new route. But for me, it's like it's so much forcing myself to think about what is my life going to look like when I've arrived. Even today when I was walking and I was forcing myself to think, okay, any given Wednesday, what does my Wednesday look like? I wake up when I get what I want, I wake up and what happens? It is so difficult to use our imagination for this good. Because what happens? Well, what if my son doesn't pass this test? What if he doesn't turn in his homework? What if he gets hurt on the football field? Blah, 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 blah. But I am making a commitment today, and I hope you're making this commitment with me and Camille, that we are going to use our God given gift of imagination for the purpose that it was created to speak those things which be not as if they were, and to speak them over our lives over and over and over, and to imagine it deep down into the fabric of our souls. We feel that everything that we desire until one day it becomes a reality.
It's crazy. I think back over the last couple of years, when I started this journey. I'll call it, for lack of a better term, the journey of self-discovery. And it was really, I sat down and I said, okay, God, who am I supposed to be? Like, I don't even know who I'm supposed to be. What was I created for? And I was like, show me who I'm supposed to be. Show me through your lens, who I'm supposed to be. And so in that time frame, I began, that's when I joined the John Maxwell team, and I started kind of changing what I was doing. And I was like, I want to grow. I want to be something, and I had wrote a book, and it's called A Life of Significance. And then after, I heard that Steve Harvey, he always says, when you go from success to significance, that's when it's not about success, but significance. And I had wrote that book, and I was just kind of like, show me what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, I started imagining myself places with people and doing things. And I did it so intensely in a short period of time. But then, life happens and you go, and it was always this desire to be more, and you'll have a flash of that. And it's like, oh, well, I have all these things going on. Life isn't going right. Work is stressing me out, these kids and whatever. But then I look back and I see how so many of those things actually came to fruition, actually manifested in my life. Some people that I wanted to be connected with, that was a wish. And in this, it talks about wish versus wants, but it, or wish versus willing something to be rather than wishing it to be. But at the time I didn't understand the difference. But I knew if I wish real hard upon a star, maybe it would come true. And so I was in this term where I was doing that. And when I look back, I'm like, so many of those things actually manifested. And I feel like I was willing them because I'm like, this is going to happen. It wasn't like your regular wish. Oh, I just wish. I was like, no, this is going to happen at some point in my life before I close my eyes. It's going to happen. And I would just kind of say it like that. But I know deep down in my heart, it's what I wanted. And then it started showing up in my life.
And now what you're telling me about reminds me so much of one of my biggest struggles with this chapter. And that is the difference between real and synthetic imagination, creative and synthetic. So creative, we think about well, let me go back. Actually, this would have been a great time to talk about the stick man, but we will not talk about that right now. But we look at how there's this creative imagination, how we have these ideas and these things and these hunches, but then we also have what he's calling synthetic. And he says here on page 102 that through this faculty, one may arrange the old concepts, ideas, or plans into new combinations. This faculty creates nothing. It merely works with the material or experience or education or observation with which it is fed. And so in this in this here he's talking about this. You're adding this together. Well, I'm sorry, let me go back. It is the faculty used most by the inventor, with the exception of the one who draws upon a creative imagination when he cannot solve his problem through synthetic imagination. So synthetic imagination, and then you have creative imagination. The creative imagination works automatically, and it functions only when the conscious mind is vibrating at exceedingly rapid rate. For example, when the conscious mind is stimulated through the emotion of a strong desire. And I need to beg your forgiveness because I think I confused two concepts here. When he talked about synthetic imagination, I thought he was talking about synthetic memory, which is two separate things. Okay, but it's synthetic memory is important to this discussion because we use our creative imagination to create synthetic memories. And the brain, as described by Maxwell Maltz in psychocybernetics, cannot distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. Okay, so I'm gonna beg your forgiveness on that. I've read the book so many times that I thought I knew what that paragraph was talking about, and then I read it to you, and I was like, and I can't even fix that up, right? Like I'm just gonna have to be genuine and just say, you know what, I biffed that. He wasn't talking about what I thought he was. But the thing is, this is how we overcome the programming of our youth because this creative imagination this creative imagination is working through stimulating the emotion of a strong desire. So that's why when you close your eyes and you listen to your recording of your desire statement and you imagine it, you imagine having the wealth in hand, having the fitness that you desire, having the relationship that you desire, having the house and the lands and the cars and the experiences that you desire. When you imagine that vividly, now you're calling up your emotion, and now you're beginning to transform your subconscious. And whereas you may have spent 30, 40, 50 years feeling like a failure, feeling like you're never going to make it, feeling like you're never going to be nothing, why even bother trying? Now, all of a sudden, you're replacing all that programming with, yes, I can achieve this desire. And even if it's for an instant, even if it's for 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the afternoon, it's more than you have had your entire life. And one step leads to another step, leads to another step, leads to another step. And then one day you wake up And this energy of your desire, it is now the dominant energy of your life. And when that happens, the doors come open and things begin to change. You begin to acquire wealth quickly and without struggle and without hesitation. It's no longer a matter of whether you're going to receive funds or receive abundance in relationships or receive all those things. It's now more of a matter of how are you going to continue to keep it circulating and where are you going to move forward from here. I want to encourage you that this is one of the most powerful concepts we have in this book. This is how you begin to take back your life and take back your mind and take back your results that have been the summary of every decision that you have made based on the thinking and the programming of your past. How many of you are ready to move forward? How many of you are ready to put aside all the things that your parents and your teachers and your siblings and your exes have drilled into you? You know how you overcome that emotion? You fight fire with fire. You would overcome that emotion by fighting fire with fire. You use your imagination.
JJ, there's a line here, line 56 and 7. And it says, both the synthetic and creative faculties of imagination become more alert with use, just as any muscle or organ of the body develops through use. And what you're saying there, you fight fire with fire, which means that you have to use your imagination. You have to imagine a life much different than the one that you're currently living. You have to create that strong desire. Not only that thing that you want, but it has to be coupled with that strong desire and then action in the way to get there. But I wanted to say concerning that, I love when we did Fully Resourced and they had um, what is it? The movie with the rabbit. Anyway, and she says, what a poor sort of memory that only remembers backward. That line right there. What is that show? I mean, what is the show with the rabbit and
Is
the
it
down
Who
in the
Framed
hole?
Roger Rabbit?
No, no, down in the world underneath. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it'll come
Oh,
to me
Alice
later.
in Wonderland. Yeah.
Alice in
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wonderland
yeah.
and Alice in Wonderland with a poor sort of memory that only remembers backwards, meaning that sometimes when we remember things, we think that it's only the things that have already happened. But using your imagination, and I think this is very important here, using your imagination, you are imagining yourself in a state that you haven't yet been in, but that you're in. And then when that thing happens, because if you imagine you see yourself there, and one of the examples was when you're going to a ball or something like that, I automatically in my mind know exactly what I want to wear. I know what color it is, I know what fit it is. And I was telling my mom the other day, I can go to 100 stores in 100 minutes. Okay, I will literally stand in the door. I can feel, because when I go shopping, I have a strong idea of what it is that I want. I can go into the store, stand in the door, feel whether there's something in there or not, and I'll stand there for a second and I'm moving on to the next one. I'm like, nope. I'll scan the room to see if it's a color. Nope. Because I'm remembering the thing that I have imagined in my future. So it's already created a memory of it. And I'm going back and pulling from that because I've imagined that's what I want to look like. And you ever find something, when you find that thing, you put it on, you be like, this is it right here. This is the one that I imagined in my dream. This was the perfect thing for me because you've created that image. You've already felt how you feel in it. You know what that's supposed to look like. I go in my room sometimes, I know what I want. I scan the closet and I'm like, yep, not in here. Let me go find somewhere else, because that memory is already there. I've imagined what I wanted to wear for that day. And so we also remember in the future. And when that thing happens, we're like, yes, this is it. And I think that that's why, another reason why it's so important to create that, because again, your body, your mind will remember and will go and seek after that thing that you've imagined until you get there. It will align all of these things to find what you've already imagined and already dreamed up. And then, your mind will search until you find that thing or something similar to it if you can't find the exact thing. But yeah, so I just, that one line really resonated with me as we were going through that course. And I always say, okay, this is why it's so important for me to imagine, what I want in my
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely. I remember one of our mentors, Paul Martinelli.
that he was telling us about how the last when he bought his condo, he didn't even need to go tour the house because he had seen that kitchen a million times in his mind. And he had seen this and seen that a million times. And I've realized for me that a lot of times what we're getting out of life is confusion, because all of the energy that we're putting out is confusion and drama and victim mentality and frustration and anger. And that's what we're getting back. But I encourage everyone to really, no kidding, sit down, imagine, maybe write it out, what it is that you want. And the more clear, the more you imagine it down to the details, the more clear you get. So, like for example, this morning I was walking and I forgot my earbuds. So it was just me in the forest for an hour, and I don't like that. Honestly, I'm the kind of person that's go go go. This is downtime. Let me put on some training. Let me elevate myself. And I said, there must have been a reason that I forgot my earbuds. It must be because the Lord wants me to have this time to really reflect on myself. And I began to go through my affirmations, and I began to speak those things that which be not over my life as though they were. And I call it a confession list. Some of you have heard my Bible studies, my list of I am this and I am that, and I nurture my body, and I have the ministry, and I'm a good wife, and I'm a important I'm a empowering mother, things like that. And then I started going into my thoughts of what I wanted. And when I first used to go through the thought of what do I want, like when my in my house, on my ranch, on my retreat center, what do I really, really want? And I began to go through it in the past, like, oh, I want this. Well, I can't have that. So it needs to be over here. And I mean, I started designing in my head what I wanted for this house. And today, every time I was going through my imagination of what I want, the key thing was I'm going to have this, and somebody else is making it, somebody else is cooking it, somebody else is cleaning up after it. And every step along the way, it was like it kept coming back to me. Somebody else is cooking it, somebody else is cleaning it, somebody else is cooking it, somebody else is cleaning it, somebody else is getting that ready, and somebody else is cleaning it. I'm taking my kids to school because even though I hate the car line, it is like 2 hours of time of my life that I will never get back. I have so many juicy conversations with my kids. I am not pawning that off to somebody else, but somebody else will do the cleaning and somebody else will do the cooking. And it was just over and over and over. And it was like, wow, I never realized how much I really want that. I want my fresh pressed juice, but I really hate cleaning that juicer. So guess what? In my idea, somebody else is going to do it. And I love the fact, I'm going to bring this up real quick, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Camille. I love the fact that Rosalind gave a suggestion. You know, sometimes we really don't know what we want. And I have found in my life there are a lot of things that I thought I wanted, and when I got them, I realized I didn't want them. Like I haven't driven a Corvette, but I have driven like the Charger, and I've driven the Beamer, and I've driven all these different things that I thought I wanted, and when I got in there I said, "Mm-mm, this is not what I want." And then I've driven other vehicles that I was like, "Ooh, I didn't think I would like this, but I like it." All right. And so, you know, if you're not sure what you really want, get out there and experience life to help inform your imagination. But don't wait. Don't you let this be an excuse to procrastinate. No, you start with what you've got. And as you build your life experiences, you can refine that imagination. But don't you use this as an excuse to procrastinate. We want you to start using that imagination. Like Camille read, it's a muscle. And we want you to start working on that muscle now and developing that muscle now so it can carry you through all the way to success.
Yes, I drew this I used to dabble a little bit, draw, but I drew this house that I wanted. I had an image of the house that I wanted back in 2002, and I remember it's still on a piece of paper in one of my boxes. And I said, "This is what I want to look at in when I walk in my house every day." At some point in my life, didn't know where when it was. It was a time when I went through a pretty bad divorce or whatever, and one day the opposite happened. I walked in my house and everything was gone. So it was different than walking in my house and, it being exactly what I had imagined. I had never imagined that. But, some things you welcome in your life, some things you attract in your life, depending on where you are. And so, thank you. And so, anyway, I imagined this and I drew it. And I was looking in that time and I could never find anything like it, never find anything like it. And now, every time I turn around, I see this image of what my when I walked in my house, what it looks like. And there are houses that are built like that now. And as a matter of fact, on my screensaver, I have my vision board so that I can see it every day. But I found a picture of that same image. And so I have it on there. And then my friend sent me a picture of the same image that I had not shared before and said, "What do you think about this?" And I was like, whoa. And I just want to go back to this one page because we're talking about the creative imagination. And it says that it is through this faculty that thought vibrations from the mind of others are received. It is through this faculty that one individual may tune in or communicate with the subconscious minds of other men. And so that particular thing, and then it goes on and it talks about, kind of the clairvoyance and stuff like that later on. But I never shared this image. And that person sent me the very image that I have been imagining since 2002. And I feel like my desire is so strong to walk in my house one day and that be it. It was so strong, I'm going to say, so strong that somebody actually designed that. I had never seen it before. I just knew that that's what I wanted. And so when I saw it in actual real life, I was like, somebody heard me. You know, somebody heard what I wanted and they designed it and created it so that I can go when I build my
That's right.
house and say, this is what I want, you know. And so it just was that crazy, that strong desire. And I have dreams of this house. And then I kept saying I minimized it too, because I'm like, people are going to think it's too lavish, too this. And then, like you, JJ, I don't want to clean up. I don't want, so I kept minimizing the thing that I wanted based on my personal experience of not wanting to clean up. But then I had to think about it and I said, if I have a house that looks like that, then that means I'm gonna have money to get me a maid.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
ain't gonna have to worry about it. So why am I finding these little things to go against the very thing that I want to bring me back to a place that I don't want to be? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. And so made a vow to myself that I'm gonna stop doing that. And
Right.
I am going to allow myself to imagine exactly what I want, not based on what anybody else says, or that's too much, or that's too this, do that. No, I don't care. It's what I want. And if I work for it and I receive that and I'm able to do that, then absolutely.
Absolutely.
Why are you worried about what I'm doing? Imagine for yourself greater. But that's my petty come now, but imagine for yourself greater,
I
stop
think
worrying
it's
about my
we need
pockets.
exactly, exactly. But here's the thing is we can imagine for everybody else, but I think for a lot of us on here today, the hardest person to imagine for is really ourselves. We feel guilty, we feel like we shouldn't want that. And I personally had to come to terms with that because even as I've elevated my clothing and elevated some things about my life and the kind of house that I want and ultimately what I feel like I'm called to do, it's like, well, you can't do that walking around with shoes in with holes in your shoes. The kind of impact that I feel called to make on entire communities. And I don't care if you think I'm vain or not, because I have come to peace with the fact that the Lord has called me to do some great things, right? I can't do that wearing my old scraggly stuff because I just want to wear it till it falls out. And I don't care if it's got a hole here or a missing buckle there. I can't accomplish what I need to in a world that values certain things. And you know what? After I set aside those things, I realized I like my pretty stuff. I like it gives me pleasure, it gives me excitement, it gives me energy. And and I remember when I used to have a dining room with the whole china cabinet and all the pretty things. And my ex-husband would say, "We never use that stuff." And I was like, mm-mm. I use that dining room every time I walk in my door. It gives me joy. It makes me smile. It makes me think of the people who bought us pieces. It makes me think of your mom, who we had a lot of this stuff from. You can't tell me that I'm not using that because my house is a haven and it's welcoming and it's warm and it's giving me energy. Now, I didn't even know all of this back then, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. But the thing is we have to become comfortable with the uncomfortableness of saying, I am going to advocate for myself and I am going to imagine a better life for myself. And I'm not going to be ashamed. I am going to unapologetically prioritize my future.
That's good right there. That's good. And that's another reason why, awesome. That's another reason why I stopped kind of selling myself short. And, I did. There's this, yes, there's this thing. So I went through this period and I had to try to get myself out. If you come to my house, you probably don't, you won't see a lot of paper products. I'm gonna tell you why, okay? People like, oh, you gotta wash your dishes and stuff like that. No, it's China that I bought, a while ago or whatever. And so I no longer like paper products. I'm not knocking anybody else, but it's a different feel that you have when you use real plates or ceramic or china or whatever you have versus paper. Yes, it's convenient, but I don't mind watching dishes. I don't mind washing dishes. And then when people come to my home and they eat a good meal that I prepared, it's even better on a nice plate. You know what I mean? And the
Yeah, it
way that
is.
it is, right? It makes you feel a certain way when you eat off of it, off of real plates versus. So for those people that's their thing and they want to do it, that's fine. But for me, I wash the dishes. If it makes you feel good and it makes me feel good, I'll wash the dishes. It gives you that restaurant feel. And so I decided a few years ago, well, it's been quite a while now, that I wasn't going to cheapen myself anymore. I was just going to go ahead and put in the effort in. And so, like I said, that's just one of the things that I had to do to kind of imagine that different life for me. I can't imagine being in the house that I want and eating off of paper plates when somebody else is cleaning my house.
Right, 'cause somebody else is cleaning. And you know what's so sad is I'm like, please don't let my husband and boys see this because I will serve them on some paper plates in a heartbeat. Because I wash during football season, I wash the dishes. A non-football season, little man washes dishes, and I really don't care, right? But they're not home. Do you know what? I sure do eat off the real stuff because it does make you feel different. It makes you feel special, and it elevates your energy.
Yes, even like,
Mr. Man's
cups
gonna
and
be like,
stuff.
I was watching your class today, and
I see you sneaking them plates. No, but seriously, or porcelain, whatever it is that's your thing, and I'm not saying it has to be something, but it's just the way that I feel. And I was like, you know what, when I come in and I cook, I want to feel good when I eat my food. I want to, even glasses. I had thrown away all, like, I have two plastic cups, I think, or something like that, very few. But it's in glasses and it's in mugs and it's in, I have every different kind of glass you can think about, because that was just my way. That's the way I wanted to feel when my food came along, and it just put me in a different space of where I came from, where I wanted to go, type thing. So, yeah, that's the reason why I did it. And that's why I said I don't knock anybody that uses paper plates if that's what they want to do. That's not what I'm saying. But for me, I was imagining myself in a different place in my life that I can afford to have those things and that I can afford to treat myself a certain way, when nobody else would do that. So it was that kind of
oh,
taking
oh,
care of
oh, I think
myself.
you need to say that again. Treating ourselves a certain way. And Sean, we're really glad that you on too, lady. And for everybody else, we're really glad that you are on today. Can you tell we're having fun? But I want you to say that again, that I'm going to treat myself this way, this elevated way, this illuminated way, this unapologetic way when nobody else would.
And it's funny too because people that have come over to my house and they have eaten at my house, they go, "Oh," and I went over there. "Oh, well, yeah, I'm gonna have plates. I normally eat paper plate." I'm like, "Don't bring them out just for me." But the thing is, they thought about it. They thought about it like, oh, okay. And like I said, for me, it's okay at my house. This is what I do. I'm not so big. I'm not going to eat on paper plate. That's not what I'm saying. If that's what works for you at your house, then I have no problem. I ate on paper plates my whole life. You know what I mean? But just when I come, this is what I do. But it made me realize that people took note of that. And there was a couple of people that asked me too, like, why don't you eat paper plates? I was like, you think you're too good? I said, no, it's not that I'm too good for them. But Maybe I am. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm just
some
kidding.
people, honestly, they're working and working, they don't even realize it. And so these are things
And
we're not saying this to condemn anybody
no.
today.
Mm,
This is just something for you to think about because, like,
yes.
I remember, I'll never forget. I hadn't had kids yet. We were new in the ministry. We were newly married, and we had built our first house. Or we had bought our first house. It was the first house I'd ever lived in my whole life. Had a pool and a hot tub, and it was the American dream, y'all. It had one of the Florida houses with the screened-in back porch. Like, that is always in all of my dreams now about what I want because I haven't seen them in Texas, but I don't care. We're gonna bring somebody from Florida and they're gonna come to Texas and they're gonna give me that backyard with a screen that covers the whole pool, right? And well, you're in Georgia, you've seen those too, right? You all got them in Georgia too, right? We're out there, and the bishops come to our house. They come to our house because they're running a revival, and we're the only people who have a house big enough to host everybody. And me and my ex-husband, we were in such a rush, two busy professionals traveling 20 to 27 weekends out of the year. All we ate off was plastic and paper because we just didn't have time to clean. We should have hired somebody, but we were too cheap. And don't do that. But the bishops come in, and one of the bishops wants something to drink, and I go grab a red Solo cup. We're like 23. I mean, come on, give us a little bit of grace, right? And they're like, well, she wants a glass of water. It literally took me 5 minutes to understand what the elder was telling me, that they wanted me to serve it to the bishop in a glass, that it was an affront to serve it in a Solo cup. And I was like, I don't even know where my glasses are. So I found them. They were down in one corner of the cabinet. They were all dusty. I had to wash it. And nobody understood. It was like a total communication gap. So if you today are somebody you're doing what you got to do to survive and to get by, this is not to be any kind of condemnation or judgment or anything. It is just to say that, now that we want to educate you in a more excellent way in how you treat yourself and how you treat yourself and how you show up. It's a reflection of how you feel about yourself, and that energy then becomes a reflection of how others treat you. But let me tell you something. When I walk in the energy of I'm going to have this beautiful house and I'm going to have this beautiful ranch and people are going to be taking care of all the stuff and I'm going to have my juice and somebody else is cleaning it up, it causes you to walk differently. And it also causes you, when you really imagine it down to the details, it really causes you to get serious about what you want. So I had this thought. I don't know if I've told you guys this story before. If I have, let me know, and I won't tell it a third time. But I had this image in my mind that I wanted to be able to have a 5 mile loop around my property because right now I walk 3 miles, and I want to work up to walking 5 miles or running 5 miles a day. What I used to do before the car accident, and I thought about that. Well, when I calculated it out, I said, "Ooh, that's like 1,200, 1,300 acres. That's a little bit much for me." And so then I dropped it back down. And I said, well, how much for a 5K? How much for 3 miles? Right. And it's like, oh, about 600 acres. I said, oh, I can handle that. Right. Do you know that was a calculation on an airplane one day? I didn't even think anything of it. And the next thing you know, I start coming into contact with land management companies. I start coming into contact with people who have sizable estates and how do they manage it and how do they keep the trespassers off and how do they gate it and I was like, why is all this coming to me? And I'm going through my notes from that trip and it was like, this is why my thoughts have set something in motion that I didn't even realize what I was doing. And before I turn it back over to Camille, I want to talk about this a little bit because I know that what I just said sounds kind of hokey. And what Camille said about she imagined this thing and somebody else designed it seems a little on the strange side, especially if you're a believer today. But I want you to understand there's very real physics behind it because all light and all energy and all of these things in the physics world are actually connected. Now, they don't teach you that in high school. They don't even teach you that in college. You got to get into the depths of grad school before you start understanding all of the energetic particles and all the calculations and all that stuff. But everything is energy. And so there's not one time that you say, I'm so stupid and I'm so dumb, and that energy isn't resonating in your body. There's not one time that you hold yourself up high and you imagine the future that you want to have, that energy isn't resonating in your body. And it's not just in your body, it's going out into the fabric of this energetic world and it is making things happen, either good or bad. It's either attracting the negativity that you don't want, but you focus on, or it's attracting the positivity that you really, really, truly desire. And you're willing to harness the power of your emotion. Whew. I'm sorry. This can you tell I get fired up about this chapter?
Yes, but that's so true. Thoughts create things. Thoughts create things. It is that energetic power, that energy. And in this book, it talks about, that matter and energy. But anyway, it says desire is thought impulse, and we know that thought, that's energy. It's the energy of thought. And then it goes on over in 124. It says ideas are the products of the imagination. And then I say that innovation is a product of creativity, which you have to imagine something in order to create something, to order to make that thing a thing. You know what I mean? So thoughts create things, and it's your imagination that will create the life that you want, backed by that strong desire, which is energy. And that innovation, that creativity and innovation is the thing that puts it in motion to make it become a thing. So this is not just like she said, hokey stuff or whatever. Try it. Try it. Imagine you being somewhere. Imagine you do it. There were places, you guys, that I wanted to be so bad, like so bad. And I'm just gonna give you an example. And when I was young, teenager, I'm from San Diego, so it's a lot of Navy and stuff there. So I wanted to go to Guam because everybody's going to Guam, telling me how great Guam was, right? So I joined the military. I put it down, of course, and that's one of those places where it's a one man shop or a one or two man shop, and they stay there forever. Nobody ever gets it. And I was like, of all the places I want to go there, I want to go there. Circumstances of how I got there was kind of crazy, but it was a phone call that somebody made to me and said, hey, I heard you, somebody I didn't know. I heard you wanted to come here. I'm ready to leave. He had been there for 12, 14 years or something like that. And I'm ready to leave. And they told me that I needed to find a replacement before they would let me go because his assignment wasn't up. Are you serious? Like, of all the places, I go and I get orders and everything like that. And then somebody tried to derail that. So it was like, well, nobody asked me permission. Well, sir, you weren't there. And they have the authority to do that. Cancel my orders. I was supposed to go to Korea. They give me orders to Korea. They canceled my orders, gave me the orders to Guam. And then he canceled those orders. So for 6 weeks, I was sitting there with no assignment. I had already out processed my base, all these other things. Thank you so much for coming on, and all these other things. But at the end of the day, I was able to get there. And it was the one place I had desired so strongly to go in my life. Like I said, now how I got there was a little crazy. And then I wanted to go back to the place of my birth. I wanted to go back. I was able to go back there. There were different places that when I was a kid, I only desired. And when people ask me about my career, I go, I have been places that I only imagined that I could ever go. I never really, I desired to go there, but I was like, how am I going to get there? That's in so on and so forth. And then I found myself in those very places that I wanted to go. And it took some years and it took some things going on, but I got there and I got to experience it in a very real way and do the things that I had saw in my dreams and in my imagination. And it's just crazy. So try it, is what I'm saying. Try it when it's backed by that strong desire, that emotion that is attached to the thing that you want, that you're imagining. Stuff will start happening and shifting and moving to make it come to life for you.
It sure will. It absolutely will. Oh my goodness, this has been phenomenal. If this is your first time here, you picked a great first lesson to jump on in, because this conversation right here, I guarantee you, will change your life. You put these practices into use in your life. Oh, it's good. I want to say that somebody's going to double their income, and I want to say that somebody else is going to have a whole new outlook, and that you are going to find that even people treat you differently. Now, look, I am not operating in no prophetic gift. I'm just saying that's the results of this book. You don't have to walk in the word. You don't have to get walking. You don't have to lay hands to get this today. Do it, and it will work for you. All right. So we are going to go ahead and close out today. Now, for those of you who are enrolled in the class, me and Kamille are going to go offline. We're going to record another lesson to drop Saturday on the brain. So how I talked about some of those impulses and the physics behind it, and Kamille talked about some of the energetic things. We're actually going to dig into that a little bit more, and we're going to talk about the brain, how it is a receptor and a broadcaster for your desires and for your energy. So if you want to get that lesson, if you want to continue this journey, then I encourage you to get into the class. And let me find that link. Let me find that link so that you can actually get in the class and get that lesson delivered to your inbox Saturday morning. Kamille, before we close, do you have anything else that you want to say to our audience tonight?
Yes, I appreciate you guys coming on again, all of the wonderful comments and everything like that. But these are things that, JJ and I both have actually tested and done, that we can speak from personal experience that it has changed our lives for the better, has made things show up that, again, we imagine it. And I say it kind of willy nilly, but, like I never imagined that was, yes, I did imagine it. And that's why it showed up in my life. We were having a conversation about that before. So I just say, don't, it's not always going to come maybe in the fashion that you had desired or got you there exactly the way. It may not come, exactly on the date, even though we need those dates. And it's that, persistent action to get to that. But stuff shows up. I can't tell you how many things I have imagined that have been in my life, from people to things to places to things that I was able to create. I see something in my mind and I'm like, okay, let me do this and this. And it happens. Even at work, they're like, how do you come up with this stuff? I'd be like, look, I'm trying to think of all the ways that it could possibly work. And I'm imagining that we get these and boom, it just happens. I don't know. I feel so strongly that it's going to happen and nobody can stop me. And they be like, I'm like, I'll show you. And in my mind, I'm like, girl, you crazy, but they ain't gonna know it because you're gonna make it happen. And it always happens for me. You know what I mean? And so, anyway, this imagination, if you think you lost your imagination, I highly encourage you to read this. Start going back and allowing yourself just to freely think, exercise the muscle of imagination. What if I had the job I so desire? What if I lived in the place I desire? What if I was attached to a mate I desire? What if my children behave the way that I desire? Just allow yourself to think of the positive what ifs instead of reverting back to that same negative thinking that has been holding us back. And then think about this too when you're dealing with your children and imagination. You probably had one that got stifled. What are you doing for them? So make sure that you're encouraging them to have those healthy imaginations so that their thoughts can create things.
I am so muted. That is going to conclude us for tonight. I'm sitting here just eating it all up, thinking about my own kids and the journey that I've had with them and how much better life is with them now that I've implemented these principles into my life. And so this has been fantastic. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for all of you who have placed your comments and have been transparent and open about the things that you have revealed and the things that you have struggled with. I really do appreciate you. It's fun to talk. A speaker likes to talk, but it's nice to have interaction and to know that what we are doing and pouring out our labor of love really is being a blessing to you. And with that, on behalf of myself and Kamille, I want to say good night. Y'all take care and be blessed.